everyone. Welcome. Today we have another episode of our Devotional Mysticism and Plant Teachers series. I'm here with my beloved friend and teacher, Rukmini Walker. Welcome, Rukmini.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, I love these talks. And today our talk, I think, is something that speaks to not only the season that we're in right now. Here in North America, we are in the late autumn season, right around the holiday of Thanksgiving. And so our topic is going to be on gratitude and harvesting gratitude. And, this idea of all these different ways we harvest the gifts in our lives, and some practical ways and traditional ways as well that we can start to weave gratitude and even change our perspective of gratitude so that we can live, I think, a more spiritual life. I think gratitude, we'll talk about this, but I think gratitude really opens the door to our spiritual lives and our spiritual practices. So I'm very grateful I am grateful to be talking about gratitude as it's a feel-good subject. And I think it really sparks, the mood of the season. So before we begin, Rukmini, would you bless us with some opening prayers?
I would love to. Thank you so much. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksun Milatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Hare Hare. And here's one that I will add, just in English, I think this time. To me, this is so pertinent for our world today. It's really a prayer for everyone in the universe. May the entire universe be blessed with peace and good hope. May everyone driven by envy and enmity become pacified and reconciled. May all living beings develop abiding concern for the welfare of others. May our own hearts and minds be filled with purity and serenity. And may all these blessings flow naturally from this supreme benediction. May our attention become spontaneously absorbed in the rapture of love unto the transcendent Lord. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rukmini. So would you start us off, tell me a little bit about what speaks to you about this theme and the timing, why now? Why talk about this now?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this really for the last few days, as I'm watching the leaves fall so gracefully from the trees. And I've been thinking that what actually is the impetus for me to try to do my part or to try to do my best as I walk through the world. And I was thinking that really the impetus is gratitude, because otherwise I'm just on automatic pilot. I'm just going through my life. I do this, I do this, I do this in a very unconscious or also almost entitled kind of mechanical way. So yeah, I feel like gratitude, we think of the Thanksgiving table with the horn of plenty, that beautiful symbol, right? And I think that gratitude is that horn of plenty that we need to put on our Thanksgiving tables and in our hearts to really understand that this is the real gift that we can share. This is the bounty that we can share. Because otherwise, usually when we give a gift, we give what we can spare. But this is something when we give ourselves, we give our hearts. So that's what I've been thinking about.
I love that. Yeah, and that horn of plenty, constantly being refilled, and the horn too at the very bottom. There's always a few things sort of hidden in there, like little treasures at the bottom of the
Yeah, right.
horn that we could overlook if we're not paying attention. And so,
That's right.
you
That's
know,
so right. Unexpected gifts that are always there, like gratitude for the unexpected that's always coming, and just the idea that everything that comes to me in my life is actually coming as a gift from beyond, even if it's something I don't want or don't like, or I think of as very negative. It's coming to me as a guide
mm,
somehow or other to help direct and redirect my life. So I love what you just said, those little hidden treasures in the very tip of the horn of plenty. What a beautiful image is that.
mm.
Thank you. Very, very beautiful.
Yeah. And I love this idea, harvesting gratitude, because yeah, I mean, there are so many things that happen in a day that might feel like a curse. They might not feel like a blessing. So yeah, how do we change that? How do we flip those feelings of being upset or feeling like it's not fair?
I think gratitude is the flip. I think gratitude is that, wait a minute, I don't understand why this has come, but somehow it's come to help me go deeper and to realize something that I haven't understood. So it's a guide. I think this is living in mysticism. I remember reading this one quote that um, that there are angels in every tree, that there are burning bushes everywhere. To see everything as a guide from the beyond I think, is a very sacred way to walk the world. And it's to me so much the antithesis of the way I often do it, or we often do it.
Mm,
So I think this is really important to me. It's like the place of shift between the material and the spiritual. It's the place where we can shift to a spiritual consciousness.
yeah. Yeah. There was a quote that you had shared. I think it was from Robin Wall Kimmerer. Could you read that for us
Yeah,
about that doorway analogy?
yeah, and I think she's the author of she's a professor of botany, and she's the author of many books. But um, I think perhaps I can speak for both of us. What perhaps both of us love so much about her is that she's so attentive
Yeah.
to nature. And so here's the beautiful quote that I love so much. To me, she's one of my favorite teachers on this topic of gratitude. So she says, attention is the doorway to gratitude, the doorway to wonder, and the doorway to reciprocity. So if I'm feeling a little bit lonely, I'm not getting the reciprocation I think I need in my life, maybe I'm not feeling and expressing enough attention, gratitude, and you know, this will open the doors. Also, Radhanath Swami said something really beautiful once. He said that gratitude is the lobby to the palace of bhakti. So bhakti is this path of loving devotion to God. He said gratitude is the lobby to the
Mm.
palace of bhakti. And he said, and there is no back door.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, and I bet it is a glorious lobby, I'm sure, with, all nothing spared.
Right, right, right. And yeah, I was also thinking about the history of the very first Thanksgiving. And here are these, just if we can just visualize and imagine, here are these bewildered Europeans, you know, and they don't even know how they're going to live through the winter, but the indigenous people help them so generously. helped them, showed them what to eat, what to plant, and how to live through that harsh Massachusetts winter. And when I think of that, I also think of the sad kind of lack of reciprocation
Yeah.
that those people, we Europeans, wherever we've come from, showed the native indigenous people and all that came from that, and how that lack of reciprocation is actually collapsing our culture. And that authentic culture means this reciprocal community, and that lack of reciprocation has to be replaced by really loving networks of friends and community circles. And I wanted to share this beautiful quote from this. He's a Catholic theologian, but really he's an interfaith theologian, Ramunda Panikar. And he says, I love this, he says, our hope for our future will not be in big towers of power, but rather in well-trodden paths from one house to another.
Oh, I love that.
That's such an image of the season, of the Thanksgiving
Yeah.
season. So that's community, and that's thriving in gratitude, and just the idea that holiness comes wrapped in the ordinary things of life, and that if we're alive, if we can open our eyes, we can just see that there's hidden beauty everywhere, and that everything comes to me as a guide from beyond to help me somehow or other. And if I can just make one other point before I hear your thoughts, that we talking about gardening and we're talking about harvesting and plant teachers, but I feel like the dangerous weeds that are growing in our culture, the weeds of pride and greed and arrogance, that thankfulness is the soil, is the fertile soil that we have to have in our hearts, and those weeds will not easily grow in that fertile soil of thankfulness, gratitude. And this is the harvest of Thanksgiving, I think, that will sustain us, will sustain our culture.
Yeah, that's a beautiful image. As a gardener, yeah, the harvest depends on the soil. The soil comes first. So what is the soil made of? Is it made of gratitude and love and care and thoughtfulness? Or did you just throw some dirt, like scoop it, and is it just sort of thoughtless and unattended? Is there no attention being placed on it? And there was a great quote that I found. This one was by David Bly. Striving for success without hard work is like trying to harvest where you haven't planted.
Wow.
So, and the hard work is that attention. Can we stay attentive, attention being the doorway to gratitude, and then the harvest will be bestowed upon us, but not if we're not willing to do the work early on, right?
Right. That's really beautiful. Do the work, what do they say in Habitat for Humanity when they're building houses? They call it sweat equity, right? Sweat equity. So yeah, do the work of the gardening, and let some sweat come on my brow, and plant the seeds of deep intention and fruitfulness and plenty. That this will be the intention, and that will be shared in community. That will be for everyone.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about some of the impediments. So you mentioned, greed and selfishness and envy and pride, all of these things. And yeah, I mean, how do you see this? Like, what are the impediments for us to have gratitude and to be able to give so freely?
Yeah, I think of it as there's a beautiful image. If you can envision a beautiful fountain, an overflowing fountain that's sparkling and joyful and making a joyful noise, and so beautiful. And the bowl of the fountain is holding the water, but the water is overflowing from that fountain. So this image, the idea of affluence, that I want to be grateful, but then I notice that, oh, my neighbor has something better or newer, or, so when that bowl of my heart, really, the image of the bowl of the fountain, we're really talking about our hearts, when that bowl starts getting more entitled and bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think, well, I need a new this, I need this, I need this, then that bowl gets bigger and bigger, and the overflowing gratitude, the bowl of the fountain can't overflow.
Mm.
So I feel like, just I call it the satisfaction of sacred smallness. This, you know, just allowing our hearts to fill and ripple with joy. Um, yeah, and I think this grateful living is so important in the world, because otherwise we have this pursuit of more and better, and we can lose sight of the treasures that are right before us, right within us. And I also think that this gift of gratitude, it's a gift of aliveness. It's a coming alive to our interconnectedness, to the mystery of the gifts that we give each other, but the gifts of God, the gifts of the Spirit. So I feel like gratitude is, again, it's like that interim point when we actually come alive. Gratitude in advance, kind of like a, yeah, not just an attitude of gratitude, but actions of gratitude.
Mm.
Like planting in the garden of our hearts, planting gratitude with the warmth and the fervor of our own hearts, and this coming alive in gratitude is, I think it's just the most powerful force in the whole universe. This
Mm.
coming alive in gratitude is the most powerful transformative force in the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. When you were talking about kind of the preemptive, it's almost like we have to start anticipating gratitude.
Right, yeah,
There's,
that's right.
it's like expecting gratitude, anticipating the next thing to be grateful for. And that, like, is that part of the spark that brings us alive? Is that looking, right? Like, what's the next great gift? Oh, I got a flat tire. Cool. That's a great gift. That happened to me when I was on my way to work one day back in Maryland, and it was a busy day. I was late to teach a yoga class. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did I get a flat tire? And I was just, I was like, I have to trust that there's a reason for this. But even though I'm so, not grateful in the moment, and this lovely man pulled over, and he had like
Wow.
a truck, he had a trunk full of all of these tools, and he was just jolly and helpful and so kind. And he gave me an apple, and he fixed my tire. He put my spare tire on, and he just dropped some wisdom bombs as he was talking. And it was just, I was like,
Wow.
oh, thank you, Krishna, thank you, God.
How
And
beautiful.
I was inspired for, the rest of my week. All my yoga classes were all inspired by that moment of just, of goodness. And
Yeah,
it was, yeah, it was,
that moment of surprise, actually, because surprise, when we're open to being surprised, because I think we go through our lives very, routinely and kind of jaded, that to be open to surprise, like that man was a gift of surprise. He was a blessing in your life. But at first we think, oh no, what a bummer, But he was, so to be open to surprise, which is sort of, it's almost like surprise, to be open to surprise is the doorway to the attention almost,
mm,
And yeah, I love this quote. Yeah, well, talking about harvest, like surprise is like a surprise received gratefully gives us a harvest of what? Joy, delight, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, and there's always, and this year I had a surprise. I planted what I thought were zucchini, and I ended up getting a whole bunch of honeydews. The leaves looked similar when they were small, and it was a completely different, and then there were always, I'd always find these honeydews like had climbed down and hiding behind the tomatoes, and for my girls, the surprise of like, oh, there's another one. It was very, very joyful in that
Wow,
way.
that's so sweet and beautiful. Yeah, here's a lovely quote that I love from one of my favorite teachers of gratitude, he's a Benedictine monk, and his name is Brother David Stendel-Rast. And he actually lived through the Nazi occupation of Germany. He was a teenager in Germany. Imagine having to grow up with that and resist that with a
Mm.
spiritual perspective. And so he says on this topic of surprise, and the jaded view that we can so easily go to. He says, grateful eyes look at each thing as if they had never seen it before and caress it as if they would never see it again.
Mm.
Isn't that beautiful? And just this idea that joy is the simplest form of gratitude. Like if I can just begin my day with a little, being open to surprise, being in a place of joy, being able to receive, that's the simplest form of gratitude that we can access,
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the practices that I have found to be really helpful, and this is something that's been suggested through a group that I participate in, is keeping a gratitude journal. So when you wake up every morning, you open up your journal and you just make a list of as many things that you're grateful for that you can think of. Like, I woke up this morning, I have a roof over my head. Today I get to talk to Rukmini, whatever whatever those gratitudes might be. And then at the end of the day, before you go to bed, you open up the book on your nightstand and you write all the things that you're grateful for at the end of the day. And in this way, both ends of the day are bookended with
Yeah.
gratitude. And it's really meant to help you see and look for gratitude and look for things to be grateful for throughout your day.
Yeah, it's really beautiful because, when I wake up in the morning, I can be flooded with so many things. Oh, I didn't get enough sleep. I don't get enough respect from my kids, from my husband, from my this, from it, from my coworkers, you know, I don't get it. It's like the opposite is a consciousness of scarcity.
Ah,
But I can wake up thinking, oh, I thank you for another breath of life today. God or Krishna, by whatever name we like to call, give me another breath of life. So many didn't receive another breath of life today. So yeah. And I think, I was also thinking that, we think of plants that are resilient and winter hardy, like we're going into this cold season. It's really cold and snowing where you are. It's cold where I am. But I was thinking that, so this idea of joy springing from a grateful heart, and that when we plant gratitude, that gratitude is more resilient. It's more winter hardy than maybe we could say than the circumstances of the moment. When we intentionally plant it at the beginning, as you're saying, the beginning of our days, then that's more resilient than the circumstances of the moment. It's an intention. It's not a reaction, but it's a chosen response to every moment. And I think it plants the kind of joy that we as human beings are craving for. I feel like we're starving for this. We're famished for this. And what is it? It's the fruits. It's the delicious fruits of gratitude. And we are starving for that in our culture. I believe that.
yeah. Yeah, we're starving for those well-trodden pathways to each other's houses.
Yeah, where we know that we're so welcome,
Yeah.
wow, you're so welcome, just
Anytime, come in.
yeah, or just like the old image of the Amish barn raisings, where the whole community would get together and it would be a big feast and festival, and we'd put up this roof on the barn, and wow,
Yeah.
that's real life, and we're growing so far away from that in our modern culture. Like you were mentioning earlier, you can see even two people walking down the street together, a couple or a family, and they're just on their mobile devices, right? And so lonely. So we think, oh, we've made so much advancement. We all have cell phones. I can reach out to someone across the world. Yeah, but am I reaching out to someone right next to me
Mm,
in the moment, you know?
yeah. Yeah, and I'm always so grateful when I'm in like a doctor's office or dentist office and there's people there not on their phone, they're just sitting there looking around. I can make eye contact and smile and acknowledge we're humans in this moment together. I don't have to be anywhere else. I don't have to escape this moment, and yeah, what can I look for in this sacred moment? Maybe there's a connection, maybe there's a conversation that could happen. And
Yeah, you're reminding me of a beautiful poem I once read by a holy person. Can't even remember the name, but she was taking the subway or the metro to work every day. And she said something in this poem, she said something like, rapid transit is my temple.
ah,
And it was almost like a psalm, the way she was, worshiping this temple of just what you were saying, being able to glance and maybe even offer a prayer for each person that you're seeing, that, my eyes fall on this person, offer a prayer for this person. May your day be blessed. May angels just fly in from the trees into your path. It's just such a different worldview. And yeah, I feel like, yeah, there's something in Proverbs in the Bible that says that a grateful heart sits at a continuous feast.
beautiful.
Love that. Or I also love that William Blake said that a grateful heart is heaven itself. So yeah, just like living with a grateful heart is living in the embrace of heaven.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about this idea of gardening and harvesting also on a very kind of physical level. And for me as an herbalist, my approach to the plants is also one of gratitude and respect. Just like, the person in the dentist office, I acknowledge you, you're a living being. I acknowledge your presence. And the same thing can be done with the plants and how, the spirit in which we harvest. So I wanted to read something. Is that okay, from Robin Wall Kimmerer from Braiding
Love it.
Sweetgrass? Okay. So how do we harvest in a mindful way? Know the ways of the ones who take care of you, so that you may take care of them. Introduce yourself. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for life. Ask permission before taking, and abide by the answer.
Mm.
Never take the first, never take the last. Take only what you need. Take only that which is given. Never take more than half and leave some for others. Harvest in a way that minimizes harm. Use it respectfully. Never waste what you have taken. Share. Give thanks for what you have been given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. Sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever.
Mm. So profound. To me, this is divine spiritual thinking. And these are the lessons we learn from great teachers like Robin Wall Kimmerer of the indigenous people, to be so conscious, to be so aware, and to be so grateful, and to be so connected to nature. I think, you're teaching me this also, Ashley, that, this kind of symbiosis, right? This is the miracle this is the miracle gift of nature, right? And this is what we learn when we've got our eyes open and we're not so much in the mechanized world, removed from nature, where we think, you know, um, everything grows in the supermarket in a cellophane package.
Right. Or that everything it grows for me. We have this anthropocentric, I think is the word, view of everything is for us. And rather than like, the plants are for themselves, they're for each other, and so when we harvest the plants, to be very respectful and to approach them in a way that is honoring, that they have just as much a right to grow as we do. And so, and in that way, the harvest can be one of great attention and great giving thanks. And so, I've had plants tell me, no, I can't pick them. I always ask, and sometimes they say no, and it's not often. There's certain plants that are a little more like, apt to
Prickly,
say no.
prickly.
prickly in there. Yeah. And not like nettles is prickly, but it's always like, oh yeah, take me, take me, take me. It's so generous. But sometimes there's some plants out there like blue vervain. It doesn't, no, it's like, no, you take this one. No, no, you can take me over here and this one don't touch. And you just, it's this way of relating and listening that is developed over time, just like, we listen to each other. It's a skill. But then, we can harvest in a way where we really deeply feel good about it. And we feel that we haven't taken more than we need. And that's part of the vision for our garden that we just built here is it's going to be a community garden, and to teach people about this way of gardening and living in reciprocity with the land. And all of the herbs that we grow will be given for free, and all of the classes I teach here will be for free.
Oh,
um,
so
and
you'll be inviting community to come and learn? What
yeah,
a
we're going to start with kids because that's all the community I have as a mom, as a mom with young kids. So I'm going to start off this year just teaching kids about the herbs and doing medicine making with the kids and see where that goes.
Well, working with the kids is like beginning with the seed, because sometimes jaded adults get too jaded, and they're my teacher Prabhupada used to say that young bamboo bends and old bamboo breaks. So
Uh,
when you teach the kids, you're starting with the seeds, and you're fertilizing the soil for the future. So
mm,
that's so beautiful to me, a community garden. Yeah, I remember once, at one time I was living in a farm called Gitanagari, which is in Pennsylvania, and a group of kids from the inner city was brought one day on a school trip. And this one little girl, they'd never seen things growing in nature, and they were seeing these um, cabbages that you get in the supermarket. A cabbage is like maybe that big, but this one little girl, it was so adorable. She's going, damn, look at the size of that. And it was like big, it was big. It was like as big as an open umbrella, practically. It was so charming. She'd never seen anything like that before. And yeah, so
And so, with one of the things we were talking about before we hit the record button was the three sisters and these three plants, and their sort of traditional way that they're. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because, I mean, that's something that makes my head go, wow.
yes,
Too.
I mean, to me, this is a lesson in community from nature. The three sisters have this symbiotic relationship. So first, the native people would plant the corn, and the corn would grow up straight and vertical, and be like at least 6 inches tall, before. And then the second of the two, the middle sister, is the beans, and the beans can just like wrap this wild trellis around this vertical corn in a wild and beautiful way. And then meanwhile, the squash is the little sister, and the squash is shading the ground and growing horizontally, and providing nutrients for the other two. And it's really, to me, it's such a powerful metaphor for community. And then even nutritionally, right? They complement each other, the corn, the beans, and the squash. Like corn provides carbohydrates. The dried beans are rich in protein, balancing the amino acids and that are found in the corn. And then finally, the squash gives vitamins that are healthful, and a delicious oil that comes from the seeds.
Mm.
So it's this beautiful, what a lesson we get from nature, and how to live in community, appreciating each other's gifts. Someone's gifts may be very different, and this is about diversity,
Yeah.
which I think we're really impoverished when we don't honor diversity in our culture. There's so much animosity right now, but we are enriched by our diversity. Our lives are enhanced by diversity. Your gifts are very different from mine, and I can learn so much when I open my heart to hear from you, all the things that I don't know. So I think this is really, really important. This is a
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, the community learning and yeah, just the image. I'm going to try to grow the three sisters in our garden to see because we've got good environment for all three of those. And um, Yeah, I think when we really take pay attention to the gifts of one another and see them as ways that we can grow stronger and then give back. You know, what is that, like that image of the fountain? How do we, you know, just make sure we're continually giving back and not from a place of lack, but from that overflowing well of knowing that we have so much, even no, regardless of what it looks like to others, knowing from the
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah, and keeping the bowl of my heart small enough that my
Mm.
heart can overflow with that joy, that sparkle, and the joyful noise of just like a fountain makes, you know. And then when you think about seeds also, this is a lovely quote that I really appreciate from Radhanath Swami. He says that in order for a seed to grow, it has to have soft and fertile ground. Gratitude makes our hearts soft. Gratitude fertilizes our hearts. Gratitude enables the seed of bhakti or divine love to grow. And then conversely, when we expect, when we think, oh, I deserve more, when we want something different from what we're receiving from God or from nature, that's a symptom of being ungrateful.
Mm.
So, to really recalibrate our hearts and to not be duped, really, duped and tricked by this culture of, you know, affluenza. It's like a flu,
That's a great.
not influenza, but affluenza.
Yeah,
It's like the contagious disease that we've kind of all caught in this culture.
yeah,
That's scary.
yeah.
And another point, that when we talk about gratitude, we think of compassion, and that, um, the whole idea of compassion, gratitude, it's a keen awareness of the interdependence of all of us, and
Mm.
that we're all part of one another. We're involved with one another. We need each other by blessing each other, helping each other, appreciating each other. Gosh, there's this nice quote from Voltaire where, what does he say? He says something like, appreciation is such a marvelous thing. It makes what is there in someone else mine as well.
Ah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a vital shift that we need in our culture today. It's almost as though if we don't make this shift, we hear disastrous news about climate, right? So it's almost as though if we don't make this shift, the climates of our hearts are going to be, so deprived
Mm.
and so barren. Our hearts will be deserts. Our
Yeah.
hearts will be barren deserts, without this shift.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to be meditating on this idea of the paths to each other's houses. And I had this image of, like, you know, baking some bread or cookies with my girls and just bringing them to the neighbors. You know, we had a little scuffle with one of our neighbors because of the garden. They didn't like that we were taking down some trees, which were old. You know, it was a whole thing. So, you know, should I harbor resentment towards their treatment of me, or do I bake some brownies or bake some bread and say there's enough, come take the herbs in the spring and here's some bread in the winter. You know, how do we forge those connections with those that are close to us physically on the land that we live, like this literal place that we are anchored in, but then also, yeah, to the people in our lives that we may have become estranged from.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that in Germany, when someone moves into a new neighborhood, the neighbors will always bring them a loaf of bread and a little salt.
Mm.
Why? Because salt is what we need. Salt is the taste we need to make our vegetables delicious.
Mm.
So, that gift of the essentials, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, reaching out to, sometimes it's, we like to think of, oh, the world view, but we kind of are ignoring the person who maybe is right next to me, who's, maybe familiarity breeds contempt, right? I'm just taking for granted the gifts of this person who I'm not appreciating enough. But yeah, what a beautiful remedy. And when you think of resentment, it's almost like or resentment or revenge, it's almost like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So that generous spirited, to be able to do that, to be able to, especially when there's been some spiff, to be able to go and bring, some brownies or a loaf of bread or something lovely. That's really
Mm.
beautiful. Yeah. I had this really beautiful grace or kind of meditation that I was thinking maybe we could close with. Is that all right? Did you have some other thoughts you wanted to share?
I feel like we have explored the cornucopia, the horn of gratitude and its nooks and crannies. So I think, yeah, this would be great. And what I'll do is I'll also post this prayer in the description of this talk on YouTube. So if you want to print it and read it at your table, or just have it for yourself, we can make that available.
Lovely. Okay, so this is the horn of plenty of gratitude. This is inspired by a teacher named Reshad Field. So, can we turn to each person as the most sacred person on earth? Can we turn to each moment as the most sacred moment on earth that has ever been given to us? This moment may never happen again, because no two moments are ever alike. Can we perhaps awaken a bit more, breathing together with God, harvesting our gratefulness?
Mm, beautiful. Oh, thank you so much, Rukmini, for this conversation and for all of the wisdom. And yeah, I wish you a very lovely Thanksgiving season with
Oh,
you and your beloveds. And to everyone out there that's listening, please, let us know what stood out to you. What did you, kind of what is sticking? What is holding your attention? And any comments or feedback you have for us, we always love to see that, Rukmini. I always share these with Rukmini. Um, and they'll also be shared on her site. If you want to learn more about Rukmini and her work, you can look her up on our website, UrbanDevi.com. And also, she has a Patreon account where you can read her latest blogs and sharings and musings and poetry. And all of that will be listed in the description. You can find all of her links there. So
thank you
thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Beautiful.